Om Shanti. Is this loud enough? Yes, okay. Om Shanti. Good evening. Greetings of peace and love to you all. Welcome to Wembley Inner Space, a meditation and self-development center. Thank you all for making it today. My name is Vinny, and I'm honored to be your MC for this special gathering. For the benefit of anyone who is here for the first time, either in person or online, the Brahma Kumaris World Spiritual Organization is the world's largest spiritual organization, which is administered by women. There are meditation centers in over 100 countries teaching Raj Yoga, which allows students to experience peace of mind and practicing positive mindset. So today's topic is building the future we choose. It's so empowering to be able to understand and experience that our future lies in our own hands, and it's based on our present actions, which builds our future. And collectively, we can contribute to a beautiful future filled with love and happiness. This event is also in honor of the founder of the Brahma Kumaris, whom we lovingly call Brahma Baba. The Founders' Day was on the 18th of January, marking January as a special month for making spiritual effort. Brahma Baba was a visionary who dedicated the latter part of his life to world service, and he is fondly remembered for his simplicity, leadership, and dedication to a better world. We'll start the evening with a beautiful poem in honor of Brahma Baba, for which I'd like to invite Bhanu Prasad to the stage.
Hello everyone, can you all hear me? Okay. I've written this down so that I read this as slowly and carefully as possible. This is about our beloved, my role model and hero, Brahma Baba, someone whom I have come to know very closely. And to get a picture of who he is, you can look at the gentle gaze right there from the picture that you see. Brahma Baba carried a vision of a world defined by peace and purity. But a vision alone does not build a new world. Brahma Baba built the future of humanity by first constructing himself from within. He showed that to choose a new world, one must first choose a new way of being. Along the way, he nurtured his fellow travelers. He showed us that the future is built in the quiet moments of self-mastery, one thought at a time, one action at a time, one transformation at a time. This poem that I'm about to read reflects this journey, the journey of a man who chose to become an instrument of the divine, and in doing so, called us and offered us this blueprint to build a future of dignity and light. The Diamond Merchant's Voyage. He dealt in diamonds, rich and rare, a life of wealth beyond compare. But at 60 years, when men retire, he lit the soul's deep burning fire. He saw a vision, clear and bright, to lead the world from dark to light. He left the trade of gems and gold to shape a story yet untold. He put the woman in the lead to plant the peaceful, loving seed. Yet he, a leader strong and tall, remained the humblest of them all. He scrubbed the soul to make it shine and crossed the ego's boundary line. Egoless, humble, serving all. He conquered anger, greed, and lust, turning old habits into dust. Viceless and pure in every way, he learnt to leave the waste behind. With a bodiless and weightless mind, he became an angel, pure and light. When I change, the world will change. A life of lessons, pure and far. He shines now as our guiding star. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. I don't think there could have been a better start to today's evening and moving the program along. It's an honor for all of us that Sister Jayanti is among us. I don't think there's anyone who doesn't know Sister Jayanti, but she's so humble that we'll give her introduction because she won't say it. So Sister Jayanti is the additional administrative head of the Brahma Kumaris and comes with over 50 years of experience in meditation. I've had the fortune of knowing Sister Jayanti through the very start of my own spiritual journey and have taken immense benefit from each of our introductions, and I remembered them all very fondly. I'm sure that just like her words and presence have touched my heart so deeply, they will touch all of yours, and we will all take away many spiritual nuggets of wisdom through this intimate gathering in her presence today. So thank you, Sister Jayanti, for being with us. And interviewing Sister Jayanti is the wonderful Vishva Samani, who also wears many hats of being a journalist, a producer, a documentary maker at BBC Radio 4. And in our short meeting today, I can really feel her warm and pure energy. So we're definitely in for a treat. So with that, I'd like to invite you both to the stage. Just a request for everyone to keep their phones on silent. Thank you.
Are we ready? Yes. So thank you so much for that very generous introduction. And it's a real honor and pleasure to be here with Sister Jayanti. So we start 2026, as every year, with so much going on around us. On the top of people's minds is the cost of living squeeze. And I think some real key themes right now, AI and automation are everywhere, which are incredibly useful things, but also quite unsettling to many people. International conflicts, volatile international leadership. I'm really trying to paint a picture of how things feel to many of us right now. These things can create some sense of unease, and the world feels in some ways fragmented and less predictable than pre-2020. So from your perspective, Sister Jayanti, as a spiritual teacher and guide, let's start with what seems to be the biggest question that people are silently carrying right now.
I think it's a state of confusion. And there's a question, what's happening? What's going on? We're not able to make sense of things. So this question about, well, how do you make meaning of all these different things that are going on at the moment? I think maybe that's the biggest question that people have in their minds.
Which sounds like confusion.
Yes,
Yeah.
confusion, uncertainty, fear, pressure, tension. I think that's the mix of all of these things that I'm seeing everywhere.
Is that different to previous decades, or is this very much a continuation of how we've always been?
I don't think I felt such fear within people as I do today. And also the uncertainty of how things are going to happen. I think you used the word volatile, and I would definitely agree with that the leadership in today's world is very volatile. And not just in one country, but it's a general state of affairs. And so seeing all these things, I think people have a big question. How are things going to unfold? Where are we headed? What's going on?
And I guess following on from that, the title of this evening's conversation is Building the Future We Choose. And I guess when everything feels like it's moving around us at a very uncertain pace, creating this sense of unease, why is the word choose so important when we talk about the future?
I think people don't always appreciate that we can actually have a conscious choice about our future. But in fact, on a personal level, each one's destiny, each one's fortune, it's in our own hands. Whatever it is we choose to make of our lives and our future, it's in our hands. And then when it comes to the world at large, then maybe we feel that we are a little incognito wheel within the whole system. So what impact can I have on the world around me? So maybe I don't have any option, I don't have a choice about that. But in fact, what happens is that Margaret Mead said a long time ago, if there's ever been any positive change in society, it's only happened because a few individuals have got together and decided that change is needed. And so I see that at the present time, this is what is happening. I've spoken about the negativity that we're seeing around. But on the other side, you can also see young people especially, but also generally, people wanting to find out about values, about ethics, about the holistic approach to life. 50 years ago, the only place that was using this term holistic health was California. It wasn't around anywhere else. But today, everyone talks about holistic health, holistic education, holistic architecture, holistic gardening, you name it. And they'll be talking about it in a holistic way. And so I'm seeing that it's also a time of transformation. And there are enough people in the world, even though it's a minority, there are enough people in the world, and if we choose collectively, we can make our voices heard. And there can be a transformation, not just on an individual personal level, but globally. For example, meditation wasn't a word that was being used in England. When I started to meditate, people really didn't know what that meant. And when I came to England, after having been away for about a year, when I decided to understand the teachings of the Brahma Kumaris in India, and I came back, and I was so pleased to see that there was a yoga session. And I switched on the TV. It said in the program, yoga session. And of course, it was Hatha Yoga. Now, this was 1969. But Hatha Yoga was already on British television. And then gradually, people began to understand that there's more to yoga than the physical postures. That's a brilliant thing. But there's also other aspects of yoga. And so I'm seeing that from meditation being part of the hippie culture to meditation now being part of the establishment, we've come a long way.
So, am I correct in understanding, we talked about this great sense of unease that people feel. The call to action isn't necessarily to go out on the streets and to affect external change, but you're talking about inner change. How and why is that particularly powerful?
If you look at all the problems of the world around us, there's so many different issues. We haven't mentioned climate change, and that's another big one. But what is the cause of all these crises? It's human beings. it's not that nature suddenly decided to go on a rampage. It isn't that the economy just suddenly decided to give us a squeeze. But it's human beings who have created all of these different situations. And so to me, it makes sense that if human beings can change their consciousness, we've tried many things on the external level and things have just gone worse and worse and worse. But maybe if we tried to go inside and see if we can bring about a change in our consciousness, maybe that could also bring about change in the world out there.
So is the idea that we don't give up what we're doing in the outside world, but we combine that with a greater focus on our inner world?
A person went to the master and said, "What would you like me to do?" And the master asked, "What do you do?" "I wash dishes." And so the master said, "Carry on washing the dishes, wash many more dishes, but choose where you want your thoughts to be." And so that, in a sense, is a summary. Whatever external work it is I do, can I lift my awareness, my consciousness, to the point where I'm able to keep my awareness in an elevated space? I look at something and I think it's awful, it's horrible, what can I do about it? And I take my consciousness to another level. I see the same situation and I say, well, that's not really how it should be. What can I do about it? I'm not going to complain it's horrible, but I'm going to ask the question, is there something I can do to make a difference? And so I think that that's what spirituality teaches us, that if there's, it came out beautifully in the poem, that Brahma Baba understood that there needed to be a change of consciousness, a change inside, and that would trigger a change in my little world around me, but beyond that, many others. And today we are seeing a growing movement that understands that we need to return to values, we need to come back to ethics. Things are not right the way they are. There has to be a change.
And this all sounds wonderful at a very macro level, but are there some small shifts in awareness that can help bring us closer to what you describe?
I'll take a story that's very relevant in many, many parts of the world. And my first, I was brought up here and grew up at a time when London was a monoculture and monochrome. That was in the 50s. And I've seen London change. And so my first exposure to racism was when, in 1972, a huge influx of people of a different color and culture came into England. And before your time, I think. So you could tangibly feel the difference when they saw you approach now than earlier. And so there are many little things that happened, but thankfully I'd come across spirituality already. And so I knew that my dignity didn't depend on them. Mm-hmm. My dignity depended on me. But also it meant that because I was now aware that my identity isn't that of the physical form, my identity is a spiritual identity. I'm that inner being of light. And if I stay in this awareness of who I am, nobody can take away my dignity. But also, when I see others, I see them with that same awareness of the shining star, the being of light. And it means that I'm not afraid of them. And if I meet you with fear, probably your response is going to be a negative one. And if I approach you without fear, and you might say that, okay, let's talk together. Let's find out what you're thinking and what I'm thinking. So my point is that spiritual awareness could eliminate racism totally. It can't be eliminated by law. It just sometimes gets worse because you're trying to impose it from outside, and things can't be imposed. It has to be a change of heart, a change of awareness. And so the first lesson of spirituality is that this is my body, and it's very precious, very valuable, but I am that inner being, the soul. And once I come to that awareness, my identity is no longer based on color or race or age or gender or possessions or property. None of that. It's based on the inner being. And translate that idea a bit further, and you see how when I'm connected with myself, I'm connected with my values. And if I disconnect with the soul, what happens to values? People who used to say that their word is their bond, and two people would make an agreement, our word is our bond. Then later you can do the documentation. But today, you can't do that. It has to be everything read with a magnifying glass to see what the terms and conditions are. And even then, there can be a loophole. And so just in my own lifetime, I've seen values more or less on the verge of disappearing. And if we want to come back to civilization, a proper society that is based on certain norms and values, then we need spirituality.
I mean, what are the core underlying values that you think are lacking and that really that more of us could do with cultivating?
Within our spiritual teachings and my own experience, you first experience peace. I'm sure most of you have heard this term, Om Shanti, right? So Om, I am, Shanti, peace. So as soon as I start my spiritual journey and I focus inside, I come to that awareness of peace. And in that awareness of peace, it's like a door opens. I begin to experience love, joy, truth, and purity. And if you think about it, these 5 qualities of the soul, and they're inherent within the soul, every soul, doesn't matter which part of the world or which social strata you belong to, they're universal. If you mix these qualities, then you get all the other huge number of virtues and values that people talk about. We ran a project, and what came out of that was that there were 12 values that were the most important, and those are the values that we took up as an education project with UNICEF and UNESCO. Living values, living your values, your life based on values. So that project is still running in, I think, 60 plus countries across the world. It started way back in the 90s, but is still ongoing because in certain schools, they want to teach children values. And so this is a compilation of about 12 books that was done by one individual with help from a few others, but basically one individual putting together on the basis of spiritual teachings, what are values?
And is it your view that we could do with a greater emphasis on values within the education system?
Wherever they've done that in England, in Kidlington, there was a headmaster Kidlington near Oxford in Oxfordshire. So he came to the Oxford Retreat Centre and started talking about these things, and then got into one of our trainings about values. He introduced this in his school, and the school went from being rated normal to being outstanding. And he put it down to the fact that the children's behavior had changed, the children's activities were now very different. And so not just behavior and their relationships with each other, but it also had added to the academic development. And so, yes, definitely there's evidence.
Yeah, which is perhaps a little more unexpected. you've mentioned a little bit about your own experience, but I wonder if you could share another example from your own life, any particular inner practice that has really helped you remain steady when things around you feel very uncertain or challenging.
I've traveled alone most of my life, sometimes with Adi Janki, sometimes with others. And at times it's been to new countries where I don't know anyone, and where I don't know the language. And so landing in an airport in which you don't know anyone, and it can be a bit daunting. Russia has changed in many, many ways. But my first visit to Russia was around 1989. That's right, 89. And it was still communist. Now, remove half the amount of lighting you have in this room and think about an airport, a big airport, and half the amount of lighting. It was very dim lighting. And you hear a lot of stuff about Russia, or you did in those days. It was, just around the Cold War and after the Cold War. And I think if I didn't have spirituality, I would have been very scared. And I had my visa and everything. But again, this guy who was the immigration officer, and everybody seemed to have a gun. There were policemen with guns, the immigration people had guns. And it was, as I say, if I just stayed in the awareness of this, I would have been really scared. But I stayed in the awareness of this. And in that awareness, I could see this person as a soul. And although he was almost growling when we started the conversation and his interrogation, but within a few minutes, he was smiling. And so I know that not just me and my consciousness, but the vibrations of that can change the attitude of another. As I say, having gone to Russia, the last time I went was a few years ago, and of course, since Ukraine, who knows what the atmosphere there is like. I haven't been there since. But in between going to Russia was a very different experience. But at that time, it was Gorbachev had just come into power, and he had started talking about transformation and so on, but it hadn't yet happened.
Yeah, and your experience, it actually touches on something else that I thought of, which was that, really, is there power to you practicing your own, being invested spiritually yourself, even if the people around you aren't? Is there a power to that?
If I believe in something, then that's what I have to live with. And that's what I want to put into practice. And so very often, I've never been in that situation exactly, because when I came back from India, my mother already had been practicing Raj Yoga for many, many years. And my father was familiar with the concepts and so had respect for them. But so at home, I wasn't in a situation where I was the only one, in a sense. And the people I was connecting with at that time, this is around 1969, they were warm and friendly. But I can imagine that if I were in a hostile situation and I believed in spirituality, I would want to hold on to that very, very strongly, because it would support me within my situation. And so I would want to continue my practices so that I would become stronger and stronger and not be influenced by the atmosphere outside. Whatever situation you're in, there's two energies. The energy from outside that can impact you, or your energy that can impact them. Mm-hmm. And I'm putting it in a very simplistic way, because obviously there's 1,000 different factors, but the question is, which is the more powerful? Is the negativity going to influence me, or is my spirituality going to influence them? Mm-hmm. And so you just have to make sure that your own spirituality is very strong.
Would you say that there's a fearlessness that arises from that as well? just imagining you back in the Russian situation that you described, is that, or even when you described the racism that you encountered?
Today you would say that yes, there must have been fearlessness and courage. And at the moment when you're going through it, you don't really put a label on it. But yes, it does take courage to face a situation where there's nobody else supporting you. I mean, now I'm beginning to have many other memories. And I remember being in, for example, Vienna. I was in Vienna for a women's conference. So this would have been around 76, 77, around that time, because the UN had taken up the subject of women's issues around 1975. And so then about a year later, within Vienna, there was a conference and I was attending that. And at that time, the feminist movement was very anti-religion because they saw religion, which it is patriarchal, but these were women who were very active in expressing their feelings and everything. So they saw this woman in a white sari. I was very young, but they really didn't want to associate with me. And finally what happened was that there were a few people and I made friends, but I knew that I was there to put across a very specific perspective. That yes, it's important to value that you're a woman, but you can only value it when you're soul conscious. If you think of yourself as a woman just normal in that way, you'll always get dominated by people who are in a man's costume. And I use that expression because everyone is a soul. There's no gender within the soul. And so every soul has had a role in female bodies and also in male bodies. Now that's another big step to understand about reincarnation. But just to say that if I stay in gender consciousness, I'll always be limited in my perception. But when I stay in the awareness of soul, then yes, I'm in the awareness of the value of this, but I'm not limited by it. I can use the highest of the qualities of the feminine aspect, but also I know that that doesn't define me. I can rise above that. So within that sort of hostile atmosphere, it was beautiful because there were many friends that were made and things moved on. So yes, I have experienced hostile environments also.
Yeah, and handle them with grace. Moving on to stress, what do you feel is missing in how we're currently taught to cope with stress?
We try to find antidotes and medicines that can help us on the external level. I don't know whether doctors still prescribe medication to reduce stress. I know they used to, and maybe things have changed now and they don't do that anymore. There'd be people here who would know more about that. But that's not the way to remove stress. Medication's always going to have side effects, and then people discover those side effects, and so it doesn't work. I'm going away on holiday. Well, I might come back more stressed, but also I might come back a little bit refreshed, but I still find myself in the same situation I was in before. Can I do something else? Yes, I can. I can increase my own capacity so that I can have resilience. And it's not just then coping with what's going on out here, but it just means filling myself with spiritual power so that I don't feel stressed in a situation that used to cause stress. And this is the experience of many, many meditators across the world. The situation is the same, but now my attitude has changed. And I'm able to see the situation as part of my learning curve. Maybe that's what it is, because it's a relationship story. And maybe it's a story of overload, overburden. Well, maybe I now have the capacity to talk to the person I'm accountable to and just explain that this is what is manageable, but not this much. And so through that conversation, which is calm and friendly, rather than aggressive or bitter or angry, perhaps that can make a difference. So many different ways in which we can increase our own inner capacity to deal with situations. Traffic. You do the same journey every day, and it seems to get worse and worse and worse. It's a fact. There's more traffic, there's more cars, the population. I find my own resistance getting lower and lower. I used to manage it, but today it's reached a limit and I can't manage it anymore at all. Can I use that time in traffic thinking differently? Not just listening to music, which is pleasant, but maybe listening to talks, podcasts, and whatever else that's going to help me shift my thinking and move me in a different direction. And the same traffic, or even worse, and I come out the other side and I'm still fine instead of being stressed. So meditation helps you look at things from a different perspective and see how you can shift things around and be able to cope with things better.
So it's meditation that helps us renew ourselves spiritually.
Absolutely.
And so what sort of daily practice would you be advising to somebody who's coming off the street and really trying to deal with wanting to change their attitude to stress? What would be advisable daily practice?
A very simple practice is micro meditations. Start with just 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and maybe do it once every hour, on the hour. Simple thing, just when you're drinking water or taking a break, take that moment to go inside yourself and let your thoughts calm down and start thinking good thoughts. And if you can do this every hour, on the hour, definitely no stress. Of course, there's a proper meditation course that we would invite them to take, but this is such a simple antidote that they're able to manage.
Yeah. Moving on to, you mentioned young people earlier. Parents, elders generally worry about future generations. What values do you feel are most at risk of being lost and most essential to reclaim?
Respect, and of course, elders would say that the young ones don't respect us. But when they were young, their elders were saying the same thing. But it's reached an extreme point today where, even a child will say, rather than come home in time to have a meal together, well, why can't I be out with my friends? I'd rather be doing that. So simple things that used to hold the family together, like having a meal together, maybe one meal together, not even two, but just one meal together, or even one meal a week. Even that doesn't happen so often anymore. And so respect for elders, respect for teachers, that seems to have really, really gone. And the starting point of respect is knowing myself. Or I don't know myself, I don't value myself, I don't respect myself. And when I don't respect myself, how am I going to respect anyone else? Spirituality says inside out. Whatever is going on inside is what you reflect outside. And so when I start knowing myself and increasing my own value by following my values in my life, these are my core values, and this is my behavior. Every time I allow that to happen, my respect for myself goes down. We don't realize that's what's going on. And when I understand this, and I know that by connecting with myself, I'm going to be able to connect with my values and increase those, then my behavior starts reflecting that. And so respect especially, we don't respect the environment, we don't respect the world, we don't respect anyone anymore. And so going back inside, and you start respecting. The program that you mentioned earlier, the Young Ambassadors for Peace, you've seen many details of that, but I just want to pick up on one thing: how to respect each other, how to respect nature. If I can be peaceful and learn to respect myself, then all those other things also happen. So I read something very interesting 2 days ago, and it was that the ages between 13 and 25 currently, this is the age group that is seeking spirituality the most. Now, most people are saying that's not the way it looks. It's as if people are getting further and further away. But it seems that that's the case. And so there's hope, great hope.
Absolutely. And do you think that, what do you think is driving that in young people? I guess they're perhaps feeling the effects that we know about the huge mental health toll of phones and technology and the burden that's felt in young people's lives. Do you think that plays a role in why they're seeking some sort of respite from that?
Now, this is my own perception, and I could be very far away. But earlier days, when somebody reached a certain level in their career, they'd achieved what they wanted, and then they found that, well, it still wasn't satisfying enough, then they turned to spirituality. And that was true for many, many people. I've got everything sorted out here, but why do I still feel empty? Why is there this vacuum? And they'd start searching. Well, I think that state comes to young people now, that they see what's going on in the world and they're very disappointed at their elders. I know that why young people were part of the environment movement were because they were not just disappointed, they were angry with their elders. You know, how come you didn't think about all this before? What you're trying to do? But I think that that's one part of it, just the environment and wanting to find another solution. But I think generally they're finding that the world isn't the way that they would like it to be. And they'd like it to be different. And yes, there's technology and all of this around, but the world doesn't seem to be changing for the better. And so maybe they're approaching it from the inside now.
And I guess it's one of the reasons, I mean, certainly when I was young, people would always say the youth are our future. And I remember as a young person actually feeling quite powerless at that time and finding it so strange that people would say there's so much power in the youth. What's your view on that? I didn't really understand these statements at the time. I perhaps do more now. But really, what's your take on that, this idea that the youth are the future and why they are so important?
Well, literally, they are the future. I don't know where I'm going to be in 20 years' time, but young people might say that, yes, definitely we're going to be around. But I think that they have an energy. They have a mental capacity. And I know that wisdom can develop with age, and not just white hair, but real wisdom. It might also be the other way, that your concentration, your focus isn't as it used to be. I know that for myself. When Dadi used to speak, she'd speak for maybe 5 minutes, maybe longer sometimes. And I'd translate for her. And this is before all the equipment and everything, so it was like some consecutive translation. And I think I wouldn't speak for 5 minutes maybe, but maybe for 3 or 4, but I'd be able to capture everything that she had said and not leave any point out. Today I wouldn't be able to do that. I'm sure I wouldn't. So I do see how faculties change with age.
Okay.
And so when you talk about the power of youth, it is incredible, both physical energy, mental energy, capacity for learning, all that is beautiful. But of course, what happens is that it needs to be channeled in the right direction. And where there's this desire to do something for the world, to help make the world a better place, then that energy is definitely going to be channeled in the right way. And where the thought is, well, I want to make money. And I know young people who've said that to me. This was during the time when Dallas, the television program, was being shown on Indian television.
Okay.
Again, some years ago, I don't think it is now. And this young person was with me. We were waiting for somebody to join us. And so it was a very casual conversation. And I just said to this person, very young, about 18 at the time, what would you like for your future? And his answer was, I'd like to be having a home like they show in Dallas in the program. I'd like to have, the lifestyle that they show in that program. And I said, well, maybe life in real Dallas isn't like that for everyone. Maybe that's just a television program. And he really thought that everybody in Dallas had a lifestyle like that, and it wasn't true even then, and definitely not now. So yes, some people, young people, do have that vision that money is going to be able to answer everything. But I think a lot of young people also have this feeling that my life is ahead of me. Can I do something to make the world a better place?
And I guess just building on that, is the pursuit of wealth wrong in and of itself? The example of the young person that you gave.
Say that again.
Is the pursuit of wealth, the way this young person would have, is that problematic in and of itself?
Not if it's part of a bigger picture,
Okay.
but where it was the focus that I want just those external things, and that's going to mean success, that's a problem.
Okay. So what sort of inner leadership is missing among young people, or do you think would be more fulfilling to young people?
Well, I think that there's very few role models for young people. I think that's a big, big factor. Another factor, I think, is that when young people have questions about spirituality or religion or faith, they're told it's a mystery, don't go there, don't ask questions. Another answer they're given is that, well, this is how things have been written in the scriptures, you can't challenge them. Okay. Or this is how it's been since the beginning of time, you have to believe it and accept it. So it's not a world in which we can use those answers and say everything's going to be fine. So I think young people need answers to their questions, and they need to see people of faith or not faith, whatever, but they want to see people following values in their lives, disciplines and principles, and that then can give them inspiration.
And I guess we're coming towards the end now. If each person were to leave here with one inner intention for 2026, we're back at the beginning of the year, looking ahead with hope, what would you encourage them to choose?
Just one thing. Instead of being critical and negative about whatever it is that's going on in your life, whether your situation, whether the people you're with or your workplace, wherever, can I look the other side and ask the question, can I learn something from this? Or if it's a human being that I'm being critical about, can I see some speciality in this person, see the goodness in this person? So just learning to change my mind, because when I'm being critical, I'm destroying my own happiness. And if I'm seeing only bad things in a human being, I'm cutting myself off from that interaction and that closeness with that person. Again, maybe there's a lot to learn from them. And so just this one shift can make such a huge difference.
Is there any benefit to being critical, maybe of ourselves? Can that help elevate our behavior, our values, or?
I haven't seen it work like that.
Okay.
I see how if I can learn to appreciate myself and value myself, and then, yes, I can check myself and see what are my shortcomings. But if I just begin with criticism, then I just disempower myself and I feel, well, how am I going to change? This one's better, that one's better. I get into comparisons. But if I begin with appreciation and love for the self, then I can start changing myself. But that's also then how I'll reflect back with others.
You mentioned at the beginning that you've been seeing a greater interest, a wider interest in meditation and spirituality more broadly. Does that leave you with a sense of hope, given that everything feels really quite uneasy in so many other areas of our lives? Are you fundamentally left with a sense of hope?
Absolutely. I see how within every sector of society, there are groups of people, individuals who want to learn to meditate, who are meditating, who are coming together for meditation. And I'm using this word meditation like shorthand, but it implies thinking about a different way of living, a different style of living, in which there's time for silence for the self, time for peaceful interactions with others. But I see this happening worldwide. Absolutely everywhere.
Even with all the distractions that we have?
Maybe especially because of all of that. I think having tried all of those things, then you say, none of that's working. Maybe I try something else.
Lovely.
I think that's why we have a good number of young people here today. But of course, my companions and my colleagues of my age and in between also. But it does seem to be a fairly mixed generational group.
Lovely. So I think we're probably now going to open up to questions. So so the floor is open to anybody who would like to ask Sister Jayanti a question on anything that was discussed.
Don't be shy. This is your chance. In the meantime, I can share that there's roughly 250 on the online platforms as well.
Oh, okay.
So
also,
a lot.
if there are any questions coming online as well?
Any questions?
I have a question for all of you. A simple one, not a complicated one. Who's here in Wembley in a space for the first time?
Raise your hand up.
Lovely. Special welcome to you all.
Hi, my name is Edrin, and I just wanted to thank you for all the wisdom, and obviously yourself for the questions. It's been really.
I can't see you. Where are you?
Over here.
The flowers were hiding you.
Yeah, no, I was hiding over here. No, I just had a question. It's not really a question, but sort of like a question. So I don't know. I've been having some sort of conflict within myself. I think you touched on, as a young person, you tend to have that sort of conflict on what you want to make of your life, I guess. And I feel like sometimes, obviously, normally when I take like a lot of walks in the morning or in the evening, so I tend to obviously sit with my thoughts and think to myself, because I'm currently 26, so I'm trying to sort of think of how can I, because I feel like my sort of, how do you call it, my peak years are sort of going by without me achieving anything of substantial, I guess. So I'm trying, so I sort of have that conflict within myself, like I should be doing more. I should be, at this age, I should have achieved, I guess, more than what I'm currently in my life at the moment. So I guess the question is, what would your advice to someone like me having that conflict with myself? What would you say to someone like myself, I guess?
I would say to them, come to the Inner Space introductory meditation course, really, because it would give you many different answers, and it would just open up a different horizon. And so a warm invitation to come and find out. And what we take up within that sort of course is awareness of the self, the connection with the source, karma philosophy, things like these, and how to meditate, how to allow your mind to become quiet and regenerate energy, because otherwise we're using all our energy and maybe it's not being used in such a constructive way. Maybe it's just scattered, going to waste. So can I learn to focus my energy? Well, we can do that. So you're very warmly invited to come.
Cool. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Do you want one of these? Okay.
Okay. In the absence of any other questions, I think all questions answered now. Please can we request you, Sister Jayanti, to do a short meditation commentary so we can all experience that
There might
inner
be
being.
some online questions.
Okay, there's just one question. There can be repeated disappointment due to situations and also by not being able to meet our own goals. So how do we overcome that? So not get disheartened and disappointed?
When I have a specific outcome in mind, then I get disappointed when that doesn't happen. And so can I do what I know I should be doing without expecting the outcome to be as I want it to be? So the more I can be doing the right thing and know that the right seeds are being planted, the result is going to be coming at the right time, at the right moment, but I have to plant the good seeds today. Then I won't be disappointed. You plant some things and things come out, start growing, they germinate and grow very quickly. But there's other things that take time. It's okay. So can I learn about patience? Can I learn to be doing things without wanting instant results or expectations of immediate outcomes? And the second one, within every human soul, there's two sides. There's the dark and the light. There's the good and the not so good. Can I look at myself and see what are the things that are good? And don't say there's nothing good in me. That's not true. There's always something that's good in you. So look inside, find those things and say, okay, I'm going to start using these more and more in my life. And if I can do that, then I'll begin to develop more courage, more faith in myself, more confidence, and maybe other things will begin to change.
Thank you. Yeah, as mentioned, if we could plant seeds together in a short meditation.
Even if you've never meditated before, it's fine, because anyway, this is going to be just for 3 minutes and not longer. But it's a very simple way we meditate. You don't have to stop thoughts. You don't have to try and create silence. But all you have to do is to move your mind, move your thoughts in a specific direction. So let's try. I'll speak out my own thoughts and invite you to follow these ideas. I turn inwards and I reflect on the things I've been hearing about. And I look at my thoughts. As soon as I look at my thoughts, the speed of my thoughts slows down. I make a conscious choice of the thought I would like to have. I select the thought of peace. Holding peace in my mind, I begin to feel peaceful. And in this awareness of peace, I can feel the vibrations of peace reach out further and further. I realize my natural state is peace. This is how I used to be. This is how I can be. I truly am a being of peace. And in this awareness of peace, I find myself in the presence of the divine. The source of peace. And the power of peace from the divine reaches out everywhere, reaching the entire human family, so that those who seek peace and love and truth may find these. From the source, these qualities reach out, touching not only human souls, but the animal kingdom, allowing them to feel safe and secure. And these vibrations reach out to the plant kingdom, creating harmony. These vibrations reach out across the planet. I hold this vision of a world of peace in front of me. I come back to the awareness of this room in the moment here and now. And I resolve to keep this awareness of peace with me at all times. Om Shanti.
Thank you so much for that beautiful. Thank you so much for that beautiful experience. I'd now like to invite Sister Daksha, who's the coordinator of Wembley Inner Space, to give her thanks.
Shanti Nidayas, did you enjoy that? So thank you so much for this uplifting session. Wonderful questions and your answers, giving us hope, tools, and the strength and the motivation to put into practice. Agree? Okay. So just a few announcements. Sister Jayanti mentioned about the Raj Yoga course. So good news that we're actually going to start one Zoom on Saturdays. And it will be every Saturday from 12 to 1:15, starting on the 24th of January. And also on 28th and 29th, we have the Art of Positive Thinking course. That will be the evening. That will be from 5:30 to 7. And we'll continue with our Sunday morning meditation, 10 to 10:45. That's online. And Mondays and Thursdays, 7 to 7:30, both online and in person. So we have a quiet room. And in month of January, especially, we honor Brahma Baba. And so for those of you who often come and visit, but there's also a Tower of Peace, which is a little replica of what is at our headquarters. And a lot of people like to come and meditate there too. So you're welcome. It will be there till January, but the quiet room is there all the time. So 10 onwards, 10 to 5 p.m., you're welcome to come and join us. And also the shop will be open. We have lots of books by Sister Jayanti, and to mention some of them is Practical Meditation and also God's Healing Power. So please, on your way out, feel free to browse and go through the shop. And just any program of ours, special programs, is never without a little sweet, and this time you get a little savory. On top of that, you'll be getting a little booklet, and inside that is the extracts from Sister Jayanti's books. So she's written many, but there's about 4 of them. So please, as the ushers guide you, you come one by one. Sister Jayanti will be here handing you out those things. And safe journey home, and hope to see you soon. And do spend time in the quiet room, Tower of Peace, and keep coming. Shanti. And thank you to the team who put everything together, from the video recording, the sound, the program, these booklets, and whatnot. So thanks to everybody in the team, and thanks to the two of you especially. Thank you, Vishwa, coming all the way for us. Thank you.